All right. So, as you guys seen, the rear end back there, BJ's working on that. Finally got some parts in. He's got all his rear end parts now to get it back together. Bearings, seals, whatnot. We also got new right front spindle, right front ball joints. I know at the end of last year we took a pretty big hit up here, and I already had suspicions that we had a tweaked ball joint, so I'm gonna go ahead and tear this thing down on the right front and go through everything and see what we need to replace. For sure we're putting the new spindle on with the new hubs that we already got. You've seen us setting up the bearing races for those the other week. So we're gonna go ahead. I'll throw you guys on time lapse. Watch me get this thing tore down and get it replaced. So we got it all popped apart. The spindle and the hub and the rotor, there's really nothing wrong with them. But we bought new hubs, and the right front's the one we're replacing. And I told the old boss man, I said, you know, we ought to just get a new spindle. That way we could just load that whole unit right in the trailer as a backup. That way if we bend a spindle or something at the racetrack, we're not trying to switch hubs at the racetrack. We could just pop the ball joints, throw that whole thing on. So that's what we did. As you can see, this is your upper and your upper ball joint, your lower ball joint. We got both of these ball joints new. I think that this upper is bent. It's one I think is twisted, but it's really hard to actually find out if these things are truly bent or not. I've seen a guy do it one time. That's relatively an interesting way to check them. Basically, just hooked a socket to a drill and just spun it in the housing with the using the nut in the socket, and he was able to see how much it was running out by doing that. So that's what we're going to give it a whirl and see how it does it. I've never done it that way. Usually if I feel it's bent, I just replaced it, but we'll actually try to check it here and see what we can see. I mean, if it should walk out a whole bunch if it's bent. You should be able to see it moving around, you know. But we'll see. All right. So it's really hard to tell if it is bent or not. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'll show you guys what it looks like when I'm looking at, and I'll throw the new one in, and we'll do the same thing on the new one that I know is straight, and we'll see what that one does. It's kind of hard to set you guys up here and show you what I'm looking at, so I'll try to do this one-handed. So basically, just throwing the old impact grill on here and spinning this thing, and I don't know how well you can see it, but it's walking out, and it should be, in all relativity, it should spin perfectly straight. But it's not walking out so much that I can't tell if it's just a socket walking on the impact or whatever. So I'm gonna throw the new one in anyway and just be sure that it is straight and do this again with the new one, and that'll give me a better idea of, you know, if this one is actually bent or not. If it's not bent, we'll probably put it back in, just because this shit's expensive and there's no point in putting in new equipment if you don't need to. So yeah, I might do all this work and end up putting the old one back in. But so it goes sometimes. It's just kind of how this game goes. If I already know, if I had done this on a new one, I would know for sure whether or not I'd seen this or not, you know, how much it's walking out. So that's why I'm going to put it together anyway and spin it, and we'll know for sure then. So we'll go ahead and set you guys back up on time lapse and get this thing changed out. All right, so went ahead and inspected that lower ball joint. As far as I could tell, that thing was running really true. Decided not to even pull it out. So I went ahead and we got the new spindle all mounted up on here, got everything put together. But yep, so we got her all put back together. Now we'll go ahead and get the new bearings packed up, get the hub put on her, and call this right front done.
What's going on, YouTube? We're T minus what, 6 or 5 days or some shit till race time, right? So we're out here, you know, like we talked about a little bit, we had a little more issues in the rear end than we had realized when we originally tore it down, but we've made some good progress. So we got the rear end all back together, just finishing buttoning up hubs and stuff like that now. And then we got some new tires back here. The old tire guy's back here doing his tire guy stuff. So got some new tires all mounted up, getting them cut and grooved now. This is the open tires, so we don't typically run these, so this is a little bit new to us, but not too much different than a regular tire. So getting them back there cut now, and I'm gonna hopefully slap this rear end this afternoon back in the car. There's the shop dog. There's Karma, just hanging out. Yeah, she's curious. She's got a little itch. That happens. But anyhow, we'll get this rear end back in the car, and Brandon probably showed you, got the right front on, the left front hub. We did a little bit something different over there. So right now, what I'm doing is just putting this final hub together. That'll be a good opportunity to show you. So with running the bearing spacers and the low drag bearings and seals and all that stuff, the way you're actually supposed to grease these bearings, and I didn't even know this myself. I mean, for years, you typically just pack them full of grease and you think the more grease, the better, and that's not the case. I was told by somebody that was maybe a little bit smarter than me that you only want to put grease in every other bearing. That's all it needs. You don't need goop on the outside. You don't need every wheel full in the bearing. It's only every other bearing. So we've been actually running that now for a couple of years and have had no issues with it. Creates less drag on the hub, and you know, anytime you can free up some drag, that's better, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and get this one all packed up, get the seal in this thing, and we'll get it on the rear end. So we'll show you some of that. All right, so as you can see, that's what it looks like. New DRP low drag seal in, made in the USA. That's pretty awesome. But got that all in there, got the bearing in there. I'll grease up this front bearing, and then we'll be ready to stick her on the axle tube there and get it all tightened up. Then we'll be about ready to put her back in the car. All right, so made some progress here. We finally got the rear end actually back up in the car and done. And now we are getting ready to do what makes it all kind of come together. So, you know, from a couple of weeks ago, the body's done. And now all of that needs to go onto that. And you can't see it right now because it's on the back side. But that's the new wrap we're about to put on. So we're going to go ahead and get to putting this on. We'll probably do some time-lapse stuff here and show you guys what we're doing, kind of what goes into this. I mean, honestly, this vinyl, it's I want to say relatively easy to lay out. The graphics guys do a pretty good job at getting everything sized up to your car. You give them a bunch of measurements, and then you just kind of tape it on there and kind of get everything in location. And then this particular vinyl is 3M vinyl, and it's actually perforated, so you don't have to wet it down underneath and then squeegee all that stuff out. The vinyl actually will breathe until it's completely stuck. So if you get an air bubble in behind it, you can work that air bubble out, and that makes it a lot easier. You can kind of pull this stuff back up if you screw up. As long as you don't get a crease in it or stretch it, you'll be fine. So it's a little bit of work. It's a several hour job here, but once it's all done, it'll sure look good. So we'll show you some of that and see it when it's done.
Alright, so we finally got all the wrap done. Whole right side's on, spoilers all done, fenders and the hood are all done. Got the filler and the headlight package on it. Driver's side's all done. So obviously the hood and the fenders are not on the car right now. Take them off, they're out back. Won't really have time to sit here and gawk at it. We gotta get after it. So as soon as we got it graphic, pull it right back apart. So that's kind of how this goes sometimes. But yeah, we're gonna get after this thing and keep hustling along. It's race week, so got to keep moving and hopefully be ready sooner than later. That way we can kick back and relax instead of thrashing the last day before race day to get everything buttoned up. And it's always nice when you can be ready a little early and be able to sit around and think about things and make sure things are right, make sure we didn't miss anything, and you know, be able to spend a good time going through the car, nut and bolting it, because you know, in the off season you touch a lot of stuff, and not all the time you don't go through and tighten something. You know, you might snug it up real quick thinking you may pull it back off to mess with something else, and then you never end up messing with it, or you forget about it, or whatever the case may be. So it's always nice to do like that first nut and bolt of the year, to be able to really take some time and check every nut and bolt on this car, because you know, that one that you think you didn't touch, you might have touched, and it might not be tight, and you'll find out the first night, I promise you that. So, but that's what she looks like for now. I'll give you a little quick walk around of it. Obviously later this week when we get it all together and get it outside, we'll get you done. Shout out to Slicker, they did a great job on the graphics. Everything looks really nice and really clean and really sharp. This is our first year going with Slicker, and I'm not mad about it. They did a really good job, and we'll see how everything goes as far as how they hold up and how it looks on the racetrack. So, and as BJ had already said, this is, you know, a little bit different of a look for him. It's kind of like a, you know, Dad was always a lot of red and a lot of silver or gray. I run flat black and fluorescent orange. Those are my colors for the most part. And BJ did some red and some yellows, and he's done some purples, but he kind of decided to blend his colors with Dad's colors a little bit, and you know, get some red and some grays and some whites and stuff like that in there. So I think it came out pretty good myself. I like it. It's not mine, so it's not my perfect style for me, but for BJ, he really likes it, and it does look really good. Yep. And then obviously rear end's back in her. So now we gotta just get banging on the rest of the mechanical stuff. Got a little bit of that left, and probably got about a good day or so doing all the smashing and suspension stuff, getting ready to actually race. So got a couple days here left to go till race day, and we got to get after it. So all right, so just don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the old channel, and see you guys soon.